Welcome to Washington in Focus. I'm Washington State government reporter with the Center Square, Carlene Johnson, along with our investigative reporter, TJ Martinell, who has been reporting on a series of exclusive stories, taking a kind of a deep dive into what's going on at the office of Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown. And the latest salvo is that Solicitor General Noah Purcell is now the focus of a Washington State Bar Association complaint alleging misconduct related to a response on A.G. Brown's behalf. Okay, you're going to have to back us up. We're going to pretend that nobody has heard any prior podcasts or read any of your previous articles about what you have been uncovering per your public records request, TJ. So back us up to what's going on and what you've uncovered.
I'm going to keep it really simple for viewers who are not familiar with it. Our Attorney General has been accused of engaging in unethical behavior related to their support of a lawsuit, a private law firm filed against the Trump administration. So it was initially a state bar complaint that the State Bar Association has chosen to look into. Nick Brown ignored their request for a response to the allegations until I reached out to them about it for comment. And instead of him responding, it was Noah Purcell, the Solicitor General, who is now subject to a bar complaint of his own. And one thing I've noted with some comments that people have made online when this has been posted on social media is that anyone can file a bar complaint. Why is this a big deal? Well, clearly they didn't read the story, because this is a very unique complaint in that the complaint alleges that Noah Purcell, who was working on what's called an amicus brief, was communicating directly with another attorney's client without their consent. And there is a rule saying you cannot do that. I reached out to the Attorney General's office and the attorney for this client and said, did you get the consent? Was consent granted? And neither responded. So Noah Purcell has to prove that he got consent. He's in a position where he has to prove his innocence. So this is a unique complaint in that the person who filed the complaint doesn't have to prove anything. The person who had the complaint filed against him has to prove that consent was granted. And so if he can't get the attorney involved, which is based in DC, to say in some way, shape, or form, yeah, we gave consent, but they also have to prove that they actually did give consent at the time. They can't retroactively say we grant consent. So that's what's going on right now with this bar complaint. So for people who say that anybody can file a complaint, why is this a big deal? Because the allegations are very unique and significant because of the circumstances involved.
So you said that WSBA, the Bar Association, went to the office and asked for a response after the complaint, and they didn't respond until you pushed further? Can you elaborate on that?
So they sent a letter to Nick Brown in, I believe, May, saying you need to respond by this date in June, and Nick Brown did not respond. They sent him a follow-up letter saying you have until July 16th, and if you don't, we can subpoena you and we can suspend your license to practice law. He still did not respond as of a month of that letter. And
wow.
The response from Noah Purcell to the State Bar Association came the day after I reached out to the State Bar Association for comment on these allegations. And so what's interesting also is that state bar complaints are private matters. The State Bar Association is a private organization, and the inquiries are done against lawyers in their positions as private attorneys. The reason why we're covering this story, aside from the allegations, is that it involves attorneys acting in public offices, the Attorney General, who's an elected position, the Solicitor General, who's appointed, and it's regarding taxpayer dollars. And also they're using public resources to defend Nick Brown and his private inquiry or private complaint leveled against him. So they've turned this into a public matter on so many levels. But on top of that, the communications and the investigation are now subject to public disclosure. So this is a very weird, I don't want to say weird, it's just unusual. This is not something that happens often. And so that's, again, where someone would say anybody can file a bar complaint. Well, that's nice, except the the stakes involved are much higher than a complaint by a disgruntled client against their attorney in some private matter that doesn't involve the use of taxpayer dollars. And also that the stakes, when I say that the stakes are high, the court case that the law firm was pursuing against Trump could be overturned because the courts have ruled in favor of them so far. This can be used as evidence by Trump's attorneys to get this case overturned.
And take me back to Perkins Coie had these contracts with the federal government. Trump came in, didn't like them, and basically terminated contracts, and then that kind of set this all off. Is that accurate?
Yeah, he issued executive orders canceling their contracts, which were not insignificant, revoking their security clearance, and removing their access to federal buildings. And so they filed they filed two things. They filed a complaint, but they also filed a motion for a temporary restraining order. It's noteworthy to note that the AGO's amicus brief, which is effectively a friend of the court brief where you're acting as a neutral party, was only filed in support of the temporary restraining order. So if the motion had been denied, the AGO's involvement would have ended. And so it really begs the question of who stood to benefit from that amicus brief other than Perkins Coie? And how does this, in what way does this benefit Washington State? What's the taxpayer angle there? On top of that, so the other thing Noah Purcell's getting a complaint against is the fact that they're using public resources. One, he can't legally represent Brown in this thing.
And explain that. Why can't he?
Well, so the Attorney General's office is not allowed to give legal advice or counsel to private individuals. And Nick Brown is being investigated as a private attorney. The Solicitor General can defend Nick Brown as in his position as the state Attorney General.
Okay.
And also Noah Purcell's letter was written on behalf of Brown, but also the Attorney General's office. Bar associations do not investigate law firms. They can't, and they explicitly say, do not file a complaint against a law firm. You have to file a complaint against specific attorneys for specific reasons. So you can't suspend somebody's license because they worked at a law firm where another guy did something he shouldn't have been doing. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say do we have any sense of, this seems like there's so many layers of potential misconduct. I don't even know how else to frame it here, but it seems like this, you've talked to some people and you and I spoke about this, I think last week, TJ, that, you've got people that are willing to tell you off the record, this is crazy what's going on in Washington State. This is highly unethical, whatever. You use all kinds of terms for that, but then they weren't willing to talk to you on the record. And are you still kind of running into some of that resistance?
I think that's when I realized that we were onto something was a while back when I reached out to so many different people. I reached out to ethics, legal ethics.
It's like they'd be all over this.
People all over the country. I reached out to people who could not be, I couldn't imagine they'd be fans of our current Attorney General's office. And if I got a no comment, that was at best. Most people just ignored my communications. They just wouldn't touch it. And so I realized when no one is willing to talk to you about something, it's a big deal because nobody wants to be the person to come out and say the emperor, for lack of a better description or analogy. No one wants to be the person to say the emperor has no clothes. And honestly, as I've been telling people, I go, look, right now, the only opinion that matters is the Office of Disciplinary Counsel for the State Bar Association. They're really the only people whose opinions matter because they're the ones who get to decide whether or not this constitutes unethical behavior. And they're the only ones who can punish Brown or Purcell with fines or suspending their license to practice law or anything like that. So that's been really, I thought that was very fascinating when just people went completely radio silent on this issue, even behind the scenes, where I was reaching out to I was just reaching out to like friendly attorneys I know in other states and just saying, what's going on? I do remember I was talking to one from Tennessee and I talked to him about how the State Bar Association was looking into this and his jaw literally fell. He said, that doesn't happen. Like he couldn't believe it. So,
So now where does it stand, though? I mean, so we've got the Bar Association looking into both Brown and Purcell at this point. I mean, is there like an expected timeline, and what are the possible consequences here?
Well, so to give an update on the complaint against Brown, the person who filed the complaint has filed a response to their response with additional information. And so now, I mean, don't want to get too much into it just because it's still developing. But one of the issues is whether or not the Bar Association should accept Purcell's response as legitimate, because it's like you ask someone hey, I'd like to talk to you, and they send someone else in their stead.
Right.
When it's not legally appropriate. So that's the question of whether or not they're even going to acknowledge that. And then on top of that, if the State Bar Association decides to launch an inquiry into Purcell, they're going to send him a letter saying, hey, you need to respond to these allegations. And then he has to send a response. If maybe we have to reach out now that we've broken the story already, because we didn't go public originally with the inquiry into Brown's conduct. But they only responded after we reached out. So now that the story's out, I think there's probably going to be some more pressure for him to actually respond. Wow.
It doesn't seem like I can, open my computer inbox or turn on the TV these days without seeing something either coming from Brown's office against the Trump administration, or them being investigated or questioned, complaints coming in. I mean, he's not, I'm sure he's getting some things done for Washington State, but he's also having to spend a heck of a lot of time, and as you mentioned, taxpayer resources defending against this stuff. And I can't imagine what that dollar figure looks like right now already.
Well, if there is a dollar figure, we're going to find out. So I think it's good for taxpayers to know how much money of theirs was spent to defend a private law firm's access to federal contracts, a security clearance, and access to federal buildings. And why, and I think the question then is how is that not a use of public resources for private gain, which is that is explicitly
not legal,
prohibited in Washington State. So this story's not going away anytime soon. It's still developing. Yeah.
Well, you have been the man on this story, uncovering it. I've seen a couple of other outlets pick up your coverage since, but I know you have a lot more to come. Are you giving us a hint of the next chapter? I keep asking you this every week. Give us a hint of what the next salvo is.
I've got another story on Nick Brown on a separate topic, but could be just as legally problematic. For him or his office. So that's,
I'm sure you are his new best friend, TJ. You're going to be invited over for dinner this weekend. I'm certain of it. Well, thank you, TJ. I appreciate your coverage of this. If readers are interested in checking out TJ's article, you can go to thecentersquare.com/Washington. Along with TJ Martinell, I'm Carlene Johnson. This has been Washington in Focus.